Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of your Fredcast. My name's Gary, and here I am once again. Today, we're going to talk about, it's Friday the 13th, so it's a special date for those of you who love, just like me, or at least are a big fan of horror stories. And when I say horror stories, I'm not only talking about horror movies or series. Of course, they're the the cherry on the top of the cake, as they say. But I'm talking about horror stories in general. Although today we're going to talk more about horror movies and series in general. But let us not forget that most of them, not to say all of them, came from books, came from oral tradition, that is stories that have been told uh, over the generations. So, yeah, you know, uh, depending on how we look at it, we're also talking about, and thanks goodness for that, we're also talking about literature, okay? But I'm once again getting ahead of myself. It's a lovely Friday, despite of the calendar, despite of the date. It's a lovely sunny Friday after a pretty long rainy day period. It's been 6 days raining non-stopping rain. It was just amazing for those who love a good rainy day to cozy up with a good book and watch your favorite or binge watch your favorite TV shows or whatever. But just as we're in a sunny and lovely and beautiful Friday, so I invite you to stand up, pause this episode, or if you're listening to it in your cell phone, you don't even have to pause to what? Of course, go grab a cup of coffee, tea, beer, soda, whatever it takes for you to relax and join me in this pretty scary and goose bumping. If you don't know what goose bumping is, Google it. Goosebumps. It's a goose bumping episode. Let's do it. So today we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna read a prepared by the ChatGPT list with the most common topics used in horror stories, in horror movies and series. But before that, let us just do some history talking. So what was it like for me, horror movies? I recorded an episode about horror movies a few months ago, if you remember. But I don't remember talking. I mean, I probably did talk about me. I mean, like, what was it like for me when growing up, and how have I become a fan of this genre, of this horror genre in general, right? Well, to be pretty honest with you guys, I say I'm a big fan, but perhaps I'm not so much of a big fan. I do enjoy feeling the goosebumps. If you did pause and Google that, you know what I'm talking about. Goosebumps. That is this feeling of fear. I do enjoy that. I do like horror movies, but well, it's far from my favorite genre, and also because here in my house, I'm the only one appreciator of that. That is, my wife hates it, this genre. She can't stand watching 5 minutes of horror movies, and also I have my daughter who's so young, who was too young to this kind of movies, of course. So there's absolutely no chance of me watching a horror movie here in front of her. And if and when I'm alone with my wife, we end up watching different things. So this is the real reason why I am not as much as a big fan, as you will see when we start reading the lists of genres and movies and productions, you'll see that most of them I won't have watched. So, yeah. But as a kid, as a teenager, I remember my parents didn't have this much of caution, if you know what I mean, with the fact that me and my sister were kids. They would just watch a few horror movies in front of us. Maybe not exactly horror movies, but some TV shows with some scary content, right? For example, I can clearly remember one TV show. It was not a movie, but it was a TV show that they were talking about some urban legends, some urban stories, scary stories, and they would kind of simulate, kind of make a short movie explaining that story, which probably would be laughable if I were to watch it today, and probably my parents did laugh watching that. But for me as a kid, I remember getting pretty scared by the scenes that they were depicted, like a man walking into a cemetery, a ghost or a dead woman standing out of the womb of the tomb. Excuse me, I said womb, out of the tomb. Again, for grown-ups, that probably wasn't as scary, or even it was laughable, it was funny, or cringy. But for kids, I never asked my sister that, but I just, that specific day, had a horrible night, trying to sleep, My parents didn't realize that. But anyways, I ever since I developed that taste of feeling fear, because it's nice, it's adrenaline, it's some, there must be some scientific explanation for the fact that we love feeling fear, right? I really believe so. But then as a teenager, I started into, by influence of a few friends, into zombie movies, and I still am a pretty admirer. I still enjoy that theme, that post-apocalyptical theme, and zombies and monsters that will do nothing other than walk towards you and kill you as fast and as aggressively as they can. I got to be connected and enjoy and able to enjoy this kind of a show, and I still do. And as a teenager, I would watch that a lot. I had a friend back in the days that was a big fan of that genre, that had DVDs, old movies, and as odd as it sounds, usually old horror movies aren't scary, or aren't, at least they aren't as scary as today's movies, today's productions. But when it comes to zombies, they manage to be. I don't know. There's something that gets the old movies, the old zombie movies, as scary. If you never saw a 70s, 60s zombie movie, go for it. Okay. There's this one that you probably saw, Will Smith's I Am Legend, right? And you possibly do not know that story comes from a book of the same name, or the same title. And there's a movie. I don't remember if that was in the 50s or 60s, but there's this old movie. It's on YouTube. I saw that a long time ago, like 10 years ago, I guess. And then I remember it was pretty scary, So horror movies have this aura, this timeless aura, if you know what I'm talking about. That is the fact that they can be potentially scary no matter what. If you watch like space traveling stories, movies like Star Trek, for example, even Star Wars, the new movies, the new productions. If you do watch that, and then you try to watch the old thing, it's not the same thing, you know. So yeah, to set in, just to give a clear example of what I'm trying to say here. So yeah, this is it about my history, and I still, to the present day, every now and then I have to do that alone, which makes the movie, the TV show even scarier. But yeah, what other option do I have? I'm the only one at this house, at this home, with that kind of taste for horror stories. But that's it. Let's check what are the top 10 genres and titles related to horror movies and horror shows. Number 1, supernatural entities, ghosts and hauntings, spirits, poltergeists, and haunted locations, demons and possessions, exorcism and demonic forces, curses, objects, people, or places cursed with supernatural misfortune. Examples: The Conjuring, The Exorcist, Poltergeist. Well, to be honest with you guys, I never saw any of the cited works here. I don't even know if they're. I think the three of them are movies. I really want to watch the Exorcist one day. It's one of good example of old but scary, still scary. And Poltergeist, I think it's a. I don't think. I'm sure it is a series of books that have become shows, and movies, and etc. Of course, but they originally written stories, you know. And of course, I want to read it someday. Number 2, psychological horror, madness and insanity, characters losing their grip on reality, isolation and loneliness, situations where protagonists are cut off from help, surreal nightmares, blurred lines between reality and dreams. Examples: The Shining, Black Swan, Hereditary. Again, I haven't seen any of the cited shows or stories or movies. But I must say that I'm not much of a. Oh, The Shining is Stephen King's book, right? I know the movie, The Shining. It's one of the best movies out there. I never saw it, but I will. But I'll be honest with you, this is not my favorite genre, my favorite subgenre inside the horror genre, right? I don't know. I think someone going crazy is not exactly what makes me have the goosebumps. You know, what makes me scared, basically. Number 3, monsters and creatures. Classic monsters, vampires, werewolves, and Frankenstein-like beings. Mythical creatures, Wendigos, chupacabras, or Lovecraftian horrors. Animal horror, sharks, spiders, or other deadly creatures. Example: Dracula, The Thing, Jaws. Wow, Jaws is amazing. Jaws is one of my favorite movies. It's amazing. It's impressive what they did with the resources they had. That is, remember, Jaws was made in the 70s. So it was just amazing. Very good story. Come on, it's Spielberg's. Come on, right? How could it go any wrong with Spielberg's behind it? Dracula is a classic book, movies. There's no need to talk about it. And once again, my man Stephen King with The Thing, right? Which I haven't read and even haven't seen the movie, but I know it's an amazing and pretty scary story, and I will do both of them sooner than later. Number 4, body horror. Well, this is a subgenre that I didn't even know existed, and recently, talking to a student of mine, I came to learn the existence. So we have in the body horror subgenre grotesque transformations, mutations or diseases altering the body, parasites and infection, spreading viruses or alien organisms, self-mutilation, disturbing acts involving the human body. Examples: the fly, the human centipede, it follows. No idea about any of them. The fly rings a bell, um, but yeah. Anyways, that's a I don't know what to think of this subgenre. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna have to watch a few of these titles in this subgenre to talk more about it. Number 5, slasher films. Masked killers, psychopaths targeting victims. Survival horror, one or a few survivors outsmarting the killer. Teen young adult tropes, often centers on groups of friends. Examples: Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream. Yeah, the three of them are just amazing movies, and I really enjoyed this subgenre. This is amazing because you can easily relate to the protagonists, to the characters of the movie. Like, they're barbecuing with friends, they're drinking a beer with their friends, they're going out, they're making out in a car, and you go like, hey, that could be me one of these days, especially if you're young, if you're a teenager, right? So this is the reason why I really enjoy this subgenre specifically. Number 6, dystopian and apocalyptic horror. Zombie apocalypse, world overrun by the undead, post-apocalyptic survival, humans struggling after a collapse, doomsday scenarios, end of the world events driven by horror. Examples: 28 Days Later, The Road, Train to Busan. I think that's the correct pronunciation, I hope. Train to Busan, whatever. I never seen any of the 3 examples here. I've never seen or read any of them. But I do love dystopian stories, okay? Dystopian horrors. Zombies, as I mentioned before, the post-apocalyptic survival thing, doomsday scenarios, they're pretty scary. And again, they fit into the category of, like, not category, but a thing of I can easily relate to that. Hey, that could happen in our world, especially the way things are going today, right? With maybe a nuclear catastrophe, nuclear war or anything like that. So yeah, this is one of my favorite, I must tell you. Occult and witchcraft and pagan rituals, ancient beliefs and practices gone wrong. Satanic cults, secret groups worshipping dark forces, forbidden knowledge, people uncovering truths better left unknown. Examples: The Witch, Rosemary's Baby, Midsommar. I never seen any. I think maybe The Witch, if it's The Witch, the one I saw a few months ago. Well, I didn't enjoy that movie as much, but it's a good movie, I was expecting more, judging by the trailer. But it's an interesting subgenre, It's an interesting. It gives me the goosebumps, I'm a Christian. I'm not as much scared of Satan as perhaps I should, but as a movie, I can pretty much let it go and feel fear and be scared of it. That's nice. Number 8, technology and futurism. And you may be wondering, hey, how can technology and futurism be any scary? Sit there and just listen. Because we got under this subgenre AI and robotics gone wrong, machines turning on humans, digital horror, ghosts or curses within tech and the internet, surveillance and privacy, dangers of over-monitoring. Examples: Black Mirror, various episodes fall into that category, basically. Host and Ex Machina. Host and Ex Machina ring me a bell, but I never saw them as far as my memory serves me. But Black Mirror is one of my favorite shows out there. It's amazing. Again, not all of their episodes are about technology and futurism, but most of them are, or at least a considerable amount of them. And it's just great the way technology can be, at least theoretically, used against us, or worse than that, turned against us by their own will. Okay, take the classic Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator. I think that was a starter on the topic. I would say there certainly were movies and of course books over that about it, but that made into a popular scenario. Like everyone go like, "Hey, oh my gosh, my computer could be my enemy in the future." That came out from those days, didn't it? Yeah, it's again one of my favorite subgenres on horror, on scary stories and movies. Number 9, social and realistic horror. Home invasion, strangers breaking into a safe space, human trafficking and exploitation, real world crimes as horror, class and racism, unequal power dynamics as the source of terror. Examples: Get Out, The Purge, Funny Games. Oh, I saw Get Out. It's one of the best movies I ever saw. And I saw a few episodes of The Purge. The Get Out is a movie, and The Purge is a Amazon Prime's show. So I saw just the beginning of it. I don't even remember why I stopped watching it. Probably because that thing I can only watch it alone. So I probably lost track of it. But it's a good show. I remember I did enjoy it. Funny Games I never heard about. Perhaps you can tell me more on the comment section below. But it's nice. It's cool. It's something that manages to be pretty scary. Number 10, cosmic and existential horror. Fear of the unknown. Creatures or forces beyond human understanding. Hopelessness and despair. Themes of inevitability and insignificance. Ancient evils. Unstoppable godlike beings. Example: The Mist, Event Horizon, The Call of Cthulhu. Well, The Call of Cthulhu is a classic, although I never read that. I'm not sure if it's a series of books or a series of podcast episodes or both. But yeah, there's so many references in the pop nerd geek culture that I must say that it is most likely an amazing show, an amazing story. Event Horizon, I probably mentioned that in the episode a few months ago about horror, but if I didn't, I will mention now. I saw this movie alone when I was 13. Guys, that thing made me be for a whole month sleepless. That brought me sleepless nights for a whole freaking month, Years later, about 10 years ago, I watched that alone and I slept like a kid. I didn't feel anything. But when I was 13, that was a different scenario. I had a whole month. The very night I watched that thing, I managed to sleep only a few hours, only to wake up in the middle of the night, remembering the whole thing, and not being able to sleep for the rest of the day. So the rest of the night, I mean. It's a very good movie. Not one of the best, I would say, and certainly not one of the scariest if you watch it today as a grown-up. But if you're 13 or younger, well, I don't know how the 13-year-olds are today with those things, but I really regret having watched that back then. It's a funny memory, but maybe I still have some traumas in my psyche because of this thing. But that's it. I happened what happened, right? And The Mist, I never heard of The Mist. Rings me a bell a little bit, but I certainly never saw that. But that's it. Please let me know what are your favorite subgenres. And again, thank you so very much for your lovely company. I hope I haven't scared the heck out of you. And if you have stomach for that, if you're into that, let us all watch a horror story or read a horror story or tell our friends in a campfire, a horror story just because the date requires us to do that. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.